It's used for special occasions, like when the emperor ceremonially appoints the prime minister. And here's a fun fact for people who love Japanese culture. The stateroom and the two rooms next to it are named pine, bamboo, and plum in Japanese. Three items that symbolize happiness or good luck in the country.
All right, we are watching live pictures coming in from the Imperial Palace. This is the stateroom, or Matsunoma, the most prestigious hall in the building. The first ceremony to mark the emperor's enthronement is about to begin here. It's called Kenji to Shoukei no Gi. The new emperor will take part in this ceremony to mark his inheritance of the imperial regalia, a sacred sword and jewel as proof of his enthronement. My colleague Minori Takao will take you through the whole process. You're watching live pictures from the stateroom, or Matsunoma, at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. In moments, a ceremony to mark the accession of the new emperor will begin here. It is called the Kenji to Shoukei no Gi. This is the first among a series of enthronement ceremonies. The doors have opened. Emperor Naruhito has entered the room. Crown Prince Akishino is present, along with Prince Hitachi, the younger brother of Emperor Emeritus Akihito. Among the imperial family members, only male adults in line to the throne are in attendance. Chamberlains are bringing in boxes containing a sacred sword and jewel. They're the imperial regalia and are inherited by emperors as proof of their enthronement. The chamberlains are also bringing in the state and privy seals. They're used by the emperor to stamp documents, which is part of his official duties. The ceremony marks the new emperor's inheritance of them. The participants of the ceremony include Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the heads of both chambers of the Diet, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The Emperor's chamberlains will now place the sword and jewel on stands, called an. The treasures have been passed down over centuries as evidence of an emperor's status. The state and privy seals are also placed on the stand. The emperor uses them to stamp documents, part of his official duties. The state seal is engraved with the kanji characters for Japan. The privy seal bears the word emperor. All the artifacts are now in place in front of the emperor. That wraps up our live broadcast from the stateroom in the Imperial Palace. We will continue our coverage from the stateroom. The Grand Master of Ceremonies and the Grand Steward of the Imperial Household Agency, as well as chamberlains, will now stand before the Emperor. Chamberlains are again proceeding to the sword and jewel. Emperor Naruhito has inherited them, along with the seals. The Emperor is leaving. Crown Prince Akishino and Prince Hitachi follow. The ceremony was attended by the Prime Minister, the heads of both chambers of the Diet, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The state and privy seals are also being carried out of the room. And that wraps up our live broadcast from the State Room in the Imperial Palace. As we have seen, the new emperor has inherited the imperial regalia as proof of his enthronement. Now, the objects have special significance to the Japanese people with a long history rooted in tradition. Let's take a look.
As we just saw, the Japanese regalia remain tightly wrapped even in the succession ceremony. Experts say they haven't been seen by anyone for centuries, not even the emperor. But a drawing depicting the ancient ceremony gives us an indication of what the three sacred treasures might look like. The sword, Kusanagi no tsurugi. The jewel, Yasakani no magatama. And the mirror, Yata no kagami. The objects are steeped in history and myth. According to legend, the sun goddess, Amaterasu Omikami, gave the three objects to her grandson, the ancestor of the first emperor of Japan. Last month, the abdicated emperor and his wife traveled to Ise Shrine, where the mirror is stored. Only the jewel stays in the imperial residence. The imperial regalia are so sacred. The other two objects are permanently kept at the Shinto shrines where they're worshipped.
All right, we're back in the studio with Professor Kenneth Ruoff of Portland State University, TV personality Patrick Holland, and NHK World's executive producer Shogo Takahashi. Well, Shogo, so in the ceremony we saw only two boxes. Where's the third piece of regalia?
Exactly. While we were watching the Imperial inherit the sword and the jewel, Another part of the ceremony was held at one of the three sanctuaries of the Imperial Palace, where a replica of the mirror is kept. In that room, a proxy took the place of the emperor. The mirror couldn't be brought to the stateroom because the replica itself is revered as an object of worship at the sanctuary.
Professor Ruoff, how unique is this ceremony compared to other monarchies around the world?
Sure, the details are unquestionably specific to Japan. But in terms of the intersection of modernity and spirituality and mythology, this is broadly similar to royal accession ceremonies throughout the world.
What was your impression of today's ceremony?
Oh, it was the sort of dignified ceremony that we could have expected. It's interesting that nothing is said. That might stand out the most to people outside of Japan.
And you, Patrick, this is your first time to witness this, right?
Yes, it is. I believe it's most people's first time to witness the accession ceremony here in Japan. We've seen, of course, television coverage of other accession ceremonies around the world, and there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. There's often a lot of gold and jewelry and long parades, and as the professor pointed out, there's a lot more speaking involved, and there's often literal and figural fanfare. There's trumpets or horns of some sort. Here, it was silent and solemn, which is often the case in Japanese ceremonies. But I got married in a Japanese shrine, and there was a little more sound, there was a little bit more speaking. I expected a little bit more expression with sound, basically, and there was almost nothing. It was just footsteps. But this solemn, dignified, silent approach is also very Japanesey.
Yeah, that could be very unique to a Japanese tradition. Now, Shogo, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Yes, well, the ceremony actually illustrates something about the emperor's position in Japan. As we've heard, these imperial regalia are considered sacred, but the government takes great care to emphasize that they are not religious. A Japanese law defines the three objects as traditional and legally devoid of any religious significance. But some critics still maintain that using sacred objects in the ceremony crosses the line. The Constitution, written after the Second World War, includes the mandatory separation of church and state. Since that time, the ceremony has been held once for Emperor Emeritus Akihito in 1989.
And there's something else some people might have noticed. The room was full of men, but with just one exception. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, Mickey, the female members of the imperial family weren't there for this ceremony. That's because, traditionally, only adult heirs to the throne can attend. And in Japan, only male member of the imperial family can become emperor. But because the Prime Minister and his cabinet were also allowed to attend, history was made today. For the first time, a woman witnessed the ceremony. Satsuki Katayama, who happens to be the Minister for Women's Empowerment.
Okay, Professor, going back to the ceremonies, people in Japan have witnessed an abdication and an enthronement consecutively in 2 days. Tell us more about how special this is.
Well, it's been a dizzying 24 hours. During this time, Japanese have been looking back on the Heisei era and also on the lives of now Emeritus Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko, even at the same time that they're being asked to think about the next reign and also being reminded of the life stories of the now Emperor Naruhito and Empress Michiko. The thing that makes it so different than the previous ones is all this has been done under festive conditions. There isn't the ceremony, of course, was highly dignified, but there isn't that somber attitude that goes along with the death of an emperor. And so overall, it's been very, very happy.
And what can you say about this psychological effect this era change is having on the nation? People are celebrating, and there are lots of people drinking, and it's in a very festive mood.
Well, I think that people are, guardedly hopeful about the future. It's a time to take a pause. Japan is in the middle of a remarkable 10-day vacation, so it's a chance to take a pause from the daily routine, perhaps think about one's own life and to think about where Japan is going. And so it is one of those turning points because people are called upon to reflect about where they've come from and where they're going from here.
Yes, I think, yes, people are taking a pause to reflect on themselves, and, everybody has their own problems.
The stateroom is the most prestigious hall in the Imperial Palace. It's used when the emperor ceremonially appoints the prime minister or when newly appointed foreign ambassadors present their credentials. Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako have now arrived. The emperor took the throne as the new day started in Japan. He's 59 years old. Other members of the imperial family are entering the room. They include Crown Prince Akishino. He is the emperor's younger brother. The empress is 55 years old. She's in a formal long dress called a robe décolleté. The chamberlain hands the emperor's speech to him. Emperor Naruhito will now deliver his first speech since taking the throne.
I have hereby succeeded to the throne pursuant to the Constitution of Japan and the Special Measures Law on the Imperial House Law. When I think about the important responsibility I have assumed, I am filled with a sense of solemnity. Looking back, His Majesty the Emperor Emeritus, since acceding to the throne, performed each of his duties in earnest for more than 30 years, while praying for world peace and the happiness of the people, and at all times sharing in the joys and sorrows of the people. He showed profound compassion throughout his own bearing. I would like to express my heartfelt respect and appreciation of the comportment shown by His Majesty the Emperor Emeritus as the symbol of the state and of the unity of the people of Japan. In acceding to the throne, I swear that I will reflect deeply on the course followed by His Majesty the Emperor Emeritus and bear in mind the path trodden by past emperors, and will devote myself to self-improvement. I also swear that I will act according to the Constitution and fulfill my responsibility as the symbol of the state and of the unity of the people of Japan, while always turning my thoughts to the people and standing with them. I sincerely pray for the happiness of the people and the further development of the nation, as well as the peace of the world.
That was the emperor's first public address. He's handing his speech back to the Chamberlain. Next, the Prime Minister will offer greetings on behalf of the people.
I humbly deliver my greetings. Your Majesty, Emperor Naruhito has acceded to the imperial throne today. The people of Japan express their heartfelt congratulations. Your Majesty has reflected on the course followed by His Majesty Emperor Emeritus and stated you will fulfill your responsibility as the symbol of the state and of the unity of the people according to the Constitution. Your Majesty also prayed for the happiness of the people, for the development of the nation, and world peace. We look up to Your Majesty as the symbol of the state and of the unity of the people. In a drastically changing global situation, we are determined to making Japan a peaceful nation, filled with hope for a bright future and pride, a nation where we can foster culture as people care about each others. We pray the Reira era will be peaceful and the imperial family further prosper.
That was the Prime Minister's greetings. 266 people are in attendance. The Emperor has just delivered his first words in his new role in the presence of the heads of the 3 branches of national government, as well as local government leaders and other public representatives. The Emperor and Empress are leaving. Other members of the imperial family follow. That wraps up our live broadcast from the State Room at the Imperial Palace.
Right, we just saw another ceremony to mark the new emperor's enthronement. Shogo, we saw the emperor speak. Take us through what he has said.
Yes, in these important first words to the public, Emperor Naruhito stressed the responsibility of being the symbol of the state. And he mentioned twice that he follow the role as laid out in the Constitution. The emperor also spoke more than once about his father, Emperor Emeritus Akihito. He expressed his gratitude to Emperor Emeritus for his dedication and for standing with the Japanese people in both joyful and difficult times. Emperor Naruhito said he plans to remember the path his father took during his 30-year reign. Echoing yesterday's speech from the Emperor Emeritus, Emperor Naruhito said he hopes there will be peace and happiness for people here and around the world during this new era.
Professor Ruoff, what is your take on the speech?
There were two aspects to the emperor's speech that stood out to me. First of all, this came across as very much of a stay the course speech. In other words, there's no need to make any great changes with the practices that have been going on since the previous reign. Second of all, the Japanese greatly value humility as well as the devotion to lifelong learning. There's a Confucian element to the latter in particular. So here we have the 59-year-old Emperor of Japan promising in his first remarks to devote himself to self-improvement. That is a remarkable statement, and I suspect it'll be very well received by his countrymen.
How about you, Patrick?
I agree. I think it was a strong statement for continuity, and with reason. The imperial household is at the highest approval rating it's ever seen. It's very popular in the country right now, and people really appreciate the strong work that the Emperor Emeritus has done in his role. Especially important, I think, was a theme that's been repeated over the last couple of days. The word in Japanese is yorisou, which means to stand together with the people. And we saw in the previous video clips where the Emperor Emeritus went to a disaster area and knelt on the floor to speak to the people who were there suffering from the disaster. And this was something that was inconceivable a few decades ago. The Emperor is now at the same level as the common people. And that, I think, is an important step which his father took and which the new Emperor will follow.
Now, let's go to our reporters out in the field. First, NHK World's Kyoko Tashiro is at the Imperial Palace. So, Kyoko, what reactions are you hearing?
Nikki, we're now out in the national park outside the palace's main gate, and as you can see, the mood is bustling, adding on to the excitement. Now, the well-wishers that were gathered here just heard the speech from the new emperor, and one person said, we're getting reactions. He said he expects through the emperor's works and studies in the new era, Japan will be even more open to the world, and many others expressed their expectations after hearing his firm words. And now the sun is clear, the sky is clear, and the sun is out, and there's no sign of this festive mood ending as more and more people are showing up at the Imperial Palace. Back to you, Mickey.
Sounds good, Kyoko. Thank you very much. Next, let's bring back Yuko Fukushima at Tokyo Daijingu Shrine. Yuko, this is a historic day, but for many couples in the country, they will remember it for another reason, right?
That's right, Mickey. Some people are here wishing to find a husband or a wife. That's because this shrine is dedicated to the deities of marriage. You can always get married here. There are 5 weddings planned for today to coincide with the beginning of the Reiwa era. Norifumi and Yui are one of those lucky couples. They just tied the knot, and earlier they told me it's an honor to mark the start of their life together here on the first day of the new era. The weddings are adding to the festive mood in there as people mark a new chapter here in Japan. Back to you in the studio, Miki.
All right, thank you very much, Yuko. Going back to our guest now, Shogo, this is not the end of ceremonies that we're going to see. There will be a series of ceremonies coming up in the couple of months. Can you walk us through them?
Exactly, Miki. First, the Imperial Palace grounds will be open to the public on May 4th to celebrate the enthronement. Throughout the day, the emperor and the empress will appear on the palace balcony to greet well-wishers, and the emperor will deliver a speech. But after that, there isn't a lot on the schedule regarding the enthronement until October. That's when world leaders will come to Tokyo to meet with the new emperor. Leaders from 195 nations will be invited to the ceremony. Then there will be a parade. During the ensuing weeks, there will be a number of banquets, including one hosted by Prime Minister Abe. In November, there will be a special harvest event where the emperor will make offerings as prayers for the Japanese people. While the emperor will take part in events surrounding the harvest every year, the Daijōsai, or the Great Thanksgiving Ceremony, is held only once during each reign. Of course, there will be more opportunities for the public to meet with him in the future. There are already plans to appoint the emperor to an honorary post for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics and ask him to declare the start of the games at the opening ceremonies.
All right. Professor, so we've heard what kind of events are coming up in the following months. What will you be paying attention to?
I think it's important to remember that within the first 2 years of the new Heisei era, in other words, after 1989, we saw now Emeritus Emperor Akihito issue a formal apology to a visiting head of state, in this case to the President of the Republic of Korea. We saw those images after the eruption of Mount Unzen of the then Emperor and Empress kneeling among their countrymen to try to comfort them and encourage them after this natural disaster. So we should definitely see some signs of a new direction by the new emperor. But at the same time, I don't think it will be as much of a dramatic departure as it was at the beginning of the Heisei era.
And Patrick, what are your hopes for the Reiwa era? What kind of an era do you want it to be?
Well, along with everyone else in the country and the world, I hope that it will be peaceful, prosperous, and we've talked a little bit about diversity and just touched briefly on the equality of the genders, things like that. I think that we're in a time of great change here in Japan, and I look forward to seeing how the imperial family and the new emperor change and lead that change. He can be more than just a symbol. He can be sort of a spark for innovation and new great things during the next upcoming era. It's very exciting.
And Professor, how about you? What kind of an era do you hope for?
I think that I'm hoping for an era where the Japanese maintain the traditions that are worth maintaining. Some people just melt when they hear the word tradition and just think, oh, we got to keep it. But in fact, throughout history, various long-standing traditions have been discarded and then new traditions are developed. And so there's many admirable aspects of Japan, but at the same time, just because something's traditional doesn't mean it should stay forever. So hopefully the Japanese can strike a good balance going forward as they forge a new Japan.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Professor Kenneth Roth, Patrick Collin, and Shogo Takahashi. Thank you very much.